I need to change my profile pic because that profile pic is misleading because I don't have any hair anymore. Shaved it all off and it feels good. Need to hydrate myself. I want to talk to you about camera gears, especially my camera gear. I have stories with each and every one of them, and you know, I started this whole photography passion, or chasing after that passion of mine in photography, and it all started with a smartphone. My first smartphone that I started taking photos with, and surprisingly enough, I started a YouTube channel with that smartphone, was the LG G3. It was a great smartphone. And from then on, I kind of slowly started to upgrade into better gear. Not right away, but I slowly started to get interest into going into a DSLR camera, looking into, and I was shopping around for a perfect DSLR camera. And the very first DSLR camera that I purchased was a Nikon D3200. Maybe it was my first time using a DSLR. Maybe I didn't know how to work around the settings, or didn't know what ISO was, or white balance was, or exposure. I didn't know any of that. Maybe because of that, I didn't get enough good impression of that camera. So I ended up trading that in for another camera. It was a mirrorless camera. It wasn't really what I wanted, but it is my breadwinner. But before I get into that, let me show you the camera gears that I have with me right now. I want to talk to you about this camera. This camera is the Canon Rebel T3i. It's actually my sister's camera. I've been using this for a couple times, not too much. So my sister got this camera and it was a package deal. I don't know where she got it from. It was either Walmart or Costco, I forget. But either way, she got this camera with the 18 to 55 millimeter EFS lens. And it also comes with the 55 to 250 millimeter EFS lens, which both are kit lens. It's still good and it's affordable too. So back to that story of my trading in the Nikon D3200. Didn't really like that camera. It was very clunky and I just didn't like it. I didn't have a good experience with it. So what I ended up trading in for was this beaut. This is my breadwinner. This was my baby and it still is. I am never parting this camera with me. It's my very first camera, so to speak, that I've been using for a few years now. It is the Panasonic Lumix G7. This is my breadwinner. I shoot all my YouTube videos with this, and I've done a couple of photo shoots, and the most fun photo shoot that I've had was with, for this clothing brand. A very small clothing brand. I don't think they exist anymore. I'm not sure, which is sad. I took this camera to a couple of models, just, you know, friends of mine, and we went out to downtown LA and I just started shooting photos on this. Another very fun moment that I've had with this camera was I just went randomly to downtown LA and I just went and started walking 3rd Street. I remember it because I had so much fun with it, and this camera was so much fun to shoot with. And yeah, and then I traded in the 3200 with just that one kit lens, but I ended up getting a 25 millimeter prime lens and also the 14 to 42 millimeter lens that came with the camera. I bought the prime lens separately. I barely use this thing. I use the 25 millimeter most of the time. Yeah, I'm not parting with this. I think I'm gonna keep this as long as I can and then hand this over as like my heirloom to my kids, and my kids can pass it down to their kids and so on and so forth, and say, this was your great grandpa's first camera that he shot photos with. I don't know. And then after I got that camera, and then I started wanting to get into vlogging, which was a horrible idea if you ask me again. Is one of those what were you thinking kind of moment. The reason being is because I'm not that of an interesting person, let alone my life wasn't that much interesting or filled with story to tell, like, and then post it up on YouTube. It's not. I'm not a great storyteller either. I'm not Peter McKinnon or Casey Neistat for that matter, you know? But I ended up getting this camera. And if you want to start vlogging on YouTube, you know this camera brand, you probably heard of it. It's the Canon G7X. Great camera. I know all of these cameras are great, but this thing just kind of blows my mind away every time I use it, because look how small that is. It's your regular point and shoot, but it also has a pop-up flash, and it takes great video, stabilized video, mind you, and great photos. And now this is not just your point and shoot, but you have a plethora of controls that you can do to control the way you want your photos to look. So you can shoot it in manual, you can put in an aperture priority, what have you, whatnot. Change your exposure, your ISO levels, your white balance. It's all here in this small compact camera. But other than that, it takes great photos as well. You can check out my trip to San Francisco. That YouTube video was shot entirely on this camera. And I've taken some nice photos there too. I will take this with me if I don't want to carry all this gear that I have. I just want to go and take some nice photos and a couple of videos. Then this is what I carry with me. It's light, compact. I could put it in my backpack and not worry about lugging heavy equipment. Now this camera I don't have that much experience with, but from just the few moments that I've used it for a couple of weeks, I'm just blown away by it. And it's the one camera that I've wanted to have from the very beginning. Not this specific camera, but this brand. It's this camera right here, the Sony A7 III. I finally got my hands on one. It is actually a second hand, and I bought this on a website called keh.com or k.com. I don't know what, maybe it's from bokeh, I don't know, k.com. So on this camera I got the Metabones, and I also have the Canon EF lens, 50mm prime lens. Great combination. It takes great photos. That shallow depth of field is great. I love this camera. This is gonna be the next main camera that I use aside from my G7. I will use the G7 in tandem if I need to zoom, or if I need to use a 25mm. I'll switch it back and forth, but this is the sidekick, and it takes amazing photos, and I just can't wait to keep shooting videos and photos on this. And moving forward, I'm pretty sure you'll see me use this camera a lot more. The last camera gear that I want to show you is actually, you have one as well. Yeah, you're probably watching this YouTube video on it right now. It's your smartphone. And this video was shot entirely on the iPhone 13 Pro. Crazy, right? It's mind-boggling how fast and technology advanced in that short amount of years. I can shoot this quality video on a small smartphone. It's crazy. I remember back in 2006, I used a Nikon digital point and shoot, and that one was only 5 megapixels and only shot 720p video, I believe, or 240, I believe. Anyway, it's a horrible camera for today's standard, but in 15 years, look how far we've come. I'm pretty sure if you are itching out there to start your own YouTube channel or follow your passion for photography, you can start it right now with just your smartphone that you have with you right now. You don't need all of this expensive gear. You might be thinking, oh, well, that's easy for you to say because you got it. No, this took me a few years for me to get this far, you know? I didn't get this right away. I don't have that much money. I'm not rich, you know? I just started gradually saving up to get this camera gear and the next, but I started everything with a smartphone. So start if you want to. So the thing about photography, why I love photography, is because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of photographers out there that might say the same thing. The fact that you're able to capture that moment, the essence of that special moment in your life, and to keep it with you forever, and you can always go back to that photo and think of that moment, it's precious. It's very special. You can capture that moment, remember it, and keep it with you and cherish it forever. And second reason why I love photography is because you start to tend to look at the world differently. Because when you take photos, you try to always look for a certain angle or a certain way. And the thing is that how you see it, how you perceive the world, you get to perceive it differently in a lot of things, not just through photography, but how you see the world just differs completely. The third reason is because it's also a very awesome and very fun creative outlet. You can express yourself creatively through photography. And the thing about photography is no one can judge you or tell you that you're doing wrong, because how you see it, how you capture that moment, and how you bring in the light and how you shoot that photo, that's all you. It's very unique. It's uniquely you. No one can tell you otherwise. There are a couple of things that you should take in consideration of when you take photos, but ultimately, in the end, how you shoot photos, that's entirely up to you, and no one can bring you down for it. And so with all of that in mind, that's why I love photography.